Hey guys, so this is going to be purely a discussion video talking about basically the quote-unquote repercussions of releasing UI Goku as a global first unit, especially when sort of paired alongside the Dokkan Fest exclusive Kefla as the next big unit that JP is getting. I've seen a lot of people touch on this topic over on Twitter and even within the YouTube community as well, saying basically that, oh, this won't bode well for the JP version of the game since it's going to piss everyone off. Or JP will see a decrease in revenue with everyone saving their stones for this now, etc., etc., etc. I did do a discussion video a few weeks ago, maybe honestly even a month ago at this point, talking about the entire premise of global first units and how they haven't necessarily been managed in the most effective manner by the developers. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that the celebrations always seemed to pan out better for the JP version whenever they would get the same celebration that Global got first. The units are always going to be the same, I think. At least that's how it's been up until now. But from what we were able to gather looking at all the different global firsts and the celebrations that tied them together, generally, like for the most part, all of those celebrations that came to JP added extra content. So that was the message that I wanted to convey in that video. And now, as of recording this video, we do not have the celebration info for part 2 of the Goku, Gohan, and Goku Day celebration. I'm recording this video on May 21st. It is currently the afternoon, so we should get the celebration info later today. But I'm going there for this weekend, and I figured I'd record this before I left so that the audio quality and stuff will be a lot better. So we don't have the celebration info for part 2, but that's really not super important to the main topics that I want to address in this discussion video. Okay, so first off, I think it's important to establish basically what the Japanese player base knows about / thinks about the global version of the game. Now, I'm not 100% sure on everything I'm going to be saying here, but this is just my, this is just what I see and how I feel about what I see Japanese players talking about on Twitter or over on YouTube, because I do keep up pretty heavily with Japanese YouTubers for Dokkan, and as well as everything going on over on Twitter as well. So, so what they know about the global version of the game. I'm going to just tell you guys right now, they know next to nothing about it. Barring the select few Japanese players I've seen who actually have global accounts, just so that they can then relay the information to people. But I would say 99% of the Japanese player base, they do not even keep up with the global version whatsoever. And they probably don't even know how far behind global really is in content. So in that sense, I think the roles are sort of reversed here, because I would say that at this point in the game's lifespan, a good majority of the semi-hardcore to hardcore player base of Global Dokkan is aware of and actually keeps up with the developments on the JP side of the game. Even if they don't necessarily, they actually don't really have an account, just so that they can be aware of what's coming, right? You watch YouTubers talk about it, you see people post stuff on Twitter, on the Reddit. There's a lot of ways to keep up with the JP version without actually having an account and playing the game. And I think a lot of people at this point have managed to do that, and it helps a lot if you're a global player, so helps you plan and stuff like that. So over the course of the past few days, I've seen a lot of Japanese players either on Twitter or in YouTube comments discussing their thoughts on the incoming Dokkan Fest exclusive Kefla unit, and that was released in V-Jump, right? And to be honest, most of those comments were pretty neutral or negative in nature, saying things such as, "Oh, more time to save stones then," and like things like that, basically. And keep in mind, this is all before the reveal of LRUI Goku, so it's not as if they weren't hyped because of LRUI Goku coming to Global. I think a lot of Japanese players just aren't super high on Kefla as a character overall. And, I mean, there's a lot of different ways you could interpret that, but just from what I've seen, a lot of people just specifically aren't excited for Kefla, for whatever the reason may be. And then when LRUI Goku was revealed, I started seeing a lot more negative comments and quote-unquote entitled comments, you could say. Basically stuff along the lines of, oh, this is a Japanese anime, so why does the global version get all the good stuff, etc., etc., etc. I've never seen, like, really anybody on the Japanese side actually do a video on the global version of the game, whereas obviously a lot of global people have done videos on the JP side of the game. And I've even seen a Japanese YouTuber say that Global should have gotten Kefla first, and that JP deserved to get LRUI Goku now. So, I mean, I'm not going to show those comments or say who they are, or the people who said that, just because I don't want to point fingers or blame specific people. But my point is that I think the only reason why they're even saying those things to begin with is because, as I mentioned earlier, they lack the knowledge of exactly what is going on in the global version of the game. Because, again, I don't think, like, barely any of the Japanese players actually keep up with it. They just see something cool coming out for Global, and they're like, oh, of course Global gets these things and JP doesn't. And I think that's true for pretty much every single Global First. We saw this a lot last year with Tech Broly. I wasn't really too vocal about this, but I mean, on Twitter, you saw a lot of people being extremely disappointed or upset when Tech Broly dropped. And they were just super pissed that Global was getting such a hype unit first, because specifically the OG Broly is like super, super beloved over in Japan. Like probably one of the most hyped characters in the Dragon Ball franchise is that OG Broly. So, honestly, this is just on a completely different level than with UI Goku, though, because UI Goku is easily the most big ticket character that we've ever seen drop on Global before JP. And I think the developers knew that they were taking a huge risk when they decided that this was going to be the path they wanted to go down. They knew they were going to anger a lot of Japanese players by doing this specifically because, to be honest, like UI Goku, like that's like the most recent thing that's happened in Dragon Ball Super, if you're not counting the manga, you know, besides Broly movie. So this was like the end of the anime. Episode, you know, I think it was 109, 110. That was like the special where they first debuted UI Goku, and then he reappeared twice more after that. That was like the big finale of the entire anime, was the UI Goku. So, so yeah, I do think that they knew they were taking a huge risk. I do think they knew that they were going to anger a lot of players on the Japanese side by doing this, which honestly, it is the game's primary market, by the way, Japanese over there. So basically the point I want to address is this move by Akatsuki going to have negative repercussions for the Japanese version of the game? And I'm just going to tell you guys that I think the answer is no. Throughout the course of this game being out, people have been mad about a lot of different things, both on the global version as well as the JP version. Like I said earlier, people were mad about Tech LR Broly releasing on global first, but we didn't really see the impact on the game super negatively initially too much. And global, there has been tons of outrage about things, but again, we still managed to hit top grossing whenever they drop super hype stuff, which can't be said for like something like 99.99% of other games on its App Store / Google Play Store. And the only thing I will say is that this time specifically, it might feel sort of like a little bit of an extra slap in the face for JP players, simply because they're about to release Kefla on the JP version, and then Global gets LR UI Goku, who obviously is the character who just completely dominates her in the anime. And whether they meant to do this or not, I think this does send a message to the Japanese player base, signaling that Global is quote-unquote winning in the celebration, since they get the winning character and JP gets the losing character. So never mind the fact that each version is going to eventually get the other character at some point in the future, because obviously Global is going to get the Kefla at some point, and then JP is probably going to get this UI Goku probably within like the next month or something. So the fact that these characters are being released within the same week to week and a half of each other, you know, on their respective versions, it does, I think, send a message, and that definitely cannot be ignored. And I think that exacerbates the problem, because JP gets Kefla, Global gets UI Goku, JP players are upset because Global's just getting the better unit. Well, not the better unit, we don't know how Kefla does yet, but Global's just getting the more hype unit, the more loved unit, you know, all that kind of thing. So in that sense, I think that things could have been handled a little bit better, just to ease the tensions between the JP and the global sides of the game. But again, I don't really think that this is anything that is going to, like, you know, permanently damage the fabrics of the game or anything like that. As long as both versions of the game continue to be ran in their own timelines and not synced together. So, you know, JP has their own thing, and then Global is behind and does their own thing, sort of. This will continue to happen, and every time Global does get something first, Japanese players will be upset and complain, and that's just how it's going to be, again, because a lot of them don't understand the fact that Global is 4 to 5 months behind, and to be honest, they really don't have a reason to care that much. JP gets 95% of things before Global, so they don't really have a reason to ever look into the Global version and like what their schedule is. So I think, you know, the way things are going, it's just going to continue this way unless they eventually decide to merge both versions on the same timeline. But I don't really see that happening, just because there's too many differences between both versions. And the reason why I think they don't do that is because they feel that they can take advantage of the differences in like culture between the global version, global players versus Japanese version, Japanese players, because there is definitely a difference. That's a different topic for a different video though, but this is basically just what I wanted to say, because I've seen a lot of people talking about like, oh, the Japanese player base is entitled, blah 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 blah, and it's not. I don't really think it's a discussion about entitlement. It's just a discussion about they're not really aware of the global version. So it's just them seeing a cool unit come out on one version and not their version, and they're upset about it, which is fair. I mean, if you're a global player, and like even for me, like when I saw Metal Cooler come out, when I saw Kid Goku come out, I was jealous of the other version, which is natural. So I don't know, like unless you see something like very very blatantly like toxic, I guess. Like if somebody says like the global version doesn't deserve to have these kinds of things, then like yeah, that is bad. I would definitely condone anybody who says things like that. But for the most part, I think they understand that you know, this is just how things are going to be for the future. But this is a different level because UI Goku, again, like I said, is just on a different level compared to like Tech Color Broly or Tech Go Bros or Hit or even Blue Kaioken Goku. So that's what I wanted to say here. Let me know down below what you guys think about this. I don't think this is going to be an issue for the game in terms of revenue or whatever. People will summon whenever this guy comes to JP, and they'll continue summoning for every other unit as well. So again, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you all in the next one.